Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Saratoga Racecourse here on closing day. It is Monday, the 4th of September, 2023. We're going to look at all the races here on closing day from the spa, but before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kid 5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and I mean around the world. Join me this upcoming Saturday for my Kentucky Downs preview. Very good racing there, and also from Colonial with the Virginia Derby, so I hope you check that out. And also in the UK, we have the Sprint Cup, so check that out. It's going to be a good weekend of racing, even without some NYRA action. This summer at Saratoga, you learn off of these summers. The weather hasn't been so cooperative, but we got through, and we'll learn from our mistakes. It was just one of those summers. Looking forward. Today's the final day of racing here in New York on the NYRA circuit until the 14th, I believe, which is next Thursday. So it's a nice little break before we head over to Aqueduct, and it's going to be I'm looking forward to going back to Aqueduct. I live 20 minutes from there, not even, and it's good to when I get out of work, jump on the A train from the city and catch the late double from Aqueduct on like a Friday or Thursday afternoon. I like doing that, it's going to be fun going back to Aqueduct, but looking at the early forecast, I know it's just under 2 weeks out and it still could change. There is rain in the forecast, so it's what can you do? And there's jumps racing, so hopefully I want to see those jumps racing in action. So hopefully they don't cancel it. But what can you do? The weather was just not cooperating. But this Labor Day card's always good. It's kind of the end of it's the end of summer today, and it's for me it always starts a new year today for some reason. I guess it goes back to going to school. You always start the new school year this week, and even as in adulthood, going back to work tomorrow. I've been on vacation for like 2 weeks anyway, so going back to everything, it's it's a brand new slate, and we'll start from the beginning and learn from our mistakes. I've been talking for 2 minutes. Let me get to the action because we have 11 races. I'll be here talking for the next 3 hours, it seems. The first race from Saratoga, probably going to be on the turf course. It is a maiden specialway purse, $88,000 race for 2-year-old maidens here, state breds. We have a field of, 16 horses entered. 11 through 16 are AEs. 10 could go 1,100 meters or 5.5 furlongs on the Mellon turf course. I'm going to take the 6 horse here, split strike, 6.528 for me in the superfecta. 6.528 super, top selection 6 horse, split strike. 2-year-old colt by Golden Sense. Christophe Clement trains. Joe Rosario gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came a month ago on the 20th of July at Saratoga. 6 furlongs in main special weight, 88,000, and the horse finished 4th by 4 lengths that day. He had a very wide trip, which probably cost him. He just kind of stalked that day. He had a decent turn of foot, but he needed something more. Better post draw. I'm going to see a quick pace to close it up into with this race. I think he could get the job done in his third outing. 2 back in a state bred main special weight, Belmont, 5 furlongs, 23rd of June. He finished 4th by 7 3/4 lengths that day. He was with them early on. He kind of crumbled late. It just wasn't his day to win after all said and done. He probably needed the race for the experience. Coming here today, he should find a good trip. He's coming to turf for the first time. I'm going to play him. I think the 5 horse here, Marco T, was originally scheduled to run on turf last week, but he scratched off of it. Had to go check the scratch board, which I don't utilize as much as I should when I handicap. Especially when I have the print edition of the racing form, I should really, utilize the scratch board, but that's I'm just going to make a little note on the computer, but I don't. The Stuart Colt by Cantheros. Christophe Clement trains 1. Mag Franco gets mad. Hasn't been seen since early May. That came at Belmont, the Widener, 5 furlongs in a main special weight, where he finished 3rd by 3.5 lengths behind Sinane, who I believe went to Royal Ascot for Tom Worley next start. This horse just kind of stalked to and from him. They're slightly better horses, but this horse, he ran his heart out. Keep in mind, the second place finisher was also a next start winner. Come back here training well, finally finding a turf race, against state breds. I'm going to give him a shot on the ticket in the early pick 5. But to recap my selection for the opener from the spa, I'm going to take the 6 horse split strike, give kudos to the 5 horse Marco T, 6.528 super, 6.5 in your multi-race. The eighth event, the second event from Saratoga, it is an allowance optional claimer purse, $149,500, race for fillies mares, 3-year-olds and upwards, never won $18,000 on the main claim starter, state allowance racer, which never won 2 races here, optional claim price $50,000. We have a field of 8 horses taking a stroll around the Saratoga main track, which is 1,800 meters in circumference, or a mile and 1/8 on the main. My top top selection, I'm going to go with the 8-horse Raging Sea. 8365 for me in the superfecta. 8365 super, top selection 8-horse Raging Sea. 3-0 for the by Curlin here. Chad Brown trains. Flavian Pratt gets to mount. The horse's most recent outing, first off the bench, came the 9th of August here at Saratoga. A mile over the Wilson Mile and an allowance optional 50 claimer. First time facing older horses, first time off the bench. She needed the race. She finished fourth by 1 3/4 lengths. She left out of the gate. She set some pedestrian fractions. She got caught late. Like I said, she needed the race. Going 2 turns, which she's definitely bred for. She's gonna have to overcome a wide posture, but I think she could get a good forwardly pace to win here today. Getting Lasix for the first time also. 2 back ran in the Brews Cup Juvenile Fillies at Keeneland, a mile 16th, 4th in November. She had a very wide posture. She was breaking 13 of 13 that day. She was wide throughout, but she was quickening up nicely late. Not a bad race after all said and done with the 77 buyer. And then the Alcibiades at Keeneland over the mile 16th. She finished third by a neck, but was placed fourth through disqualification because she was bumping in the lane. What can you do? It was a very, kind of quirky run in that final furlong. Everybody looked like it were coming out of nowhere and this horse was just bumping into everybody, bumper cars. It was the right call because it was such a small margin of victory, but for the other horses. She ran her heart out that day, and then prior to that main special here last summer over the 7/8, winning by a neck, closing up from nowhere. I thought it was a very good race. Coming here, should show some speed from the outside. Should be fresh or second off the bench. I'm going to use her. I think the 3-horse Just Catherine for Jose Jimenez and Javier Castellano could win. Most recently ran in the Wilton opening day over the mile here, and she finished second by 1.5 lengths that day. She didn't get out of the gate so clearly, and she just she couldn't catch the winner who was next star winner, but she ran her heart out that day. Coming here third off the bench, a little bit closer to the pace. I think she could really run a good race. 2 back in Ops 50 at Belmont in the mud, a mile 16th in mid-June. She finished third by 4.5 lengths that day. Since Louise was the next start winner that day who won. This horse was just wide, but she was gaining that day. And then they ran her in the Gulfstream Park Oaks where she just wasn't getting into those horses. Come back here, training well Belmont. I'm going to give her a shot on the ticket going a mile and 1/8. She's drawn well and getting some serious class relief. But to recap my selection for the second from the spa, going to take the 8-horse Raging Sea. Give kudos to the 3-horse Just Catherine. Catherine, excuse me. 8365 Super, 83 in your multi-race. The co-featured third event from Saratoga, it is the Bernard Baruch Stakes. It's going for a purse of $150,000, raced for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 6 horses entered. The 6 horses in MTO, so 5 will head to the inner turf course, 1,700 meters journey, or a mile 16th on the turf course. Gonna take the 3-horse Public Sector as a top selection. 3524 for me in the superfecta. 3524 Super, top selection 3-horse Public Sector. 5-year-old horse by Kingman here. Chad Brown trains. Iratis Jr. gets to mount. The horse's most recent outing came 27th of May at Monmouth, mile 16th in the Cliffhanger. First off the bench, he didn't run. He finished 5th by 5 1/4 lengths that day. He was wide, and he just never had the turn of foot that day. He should have came back a little bit better than he did. He's coming to a turf course that he likes. He's training quite well at Monmouth coming to this race than he was last race. I'm going to give him another shot. 2 back in the Knickerbocker at Aqueduct, a mile and 1/8 in the 9th of October. He finished 5th by 2 3/4 lengths. He had a very wide trip that day. He was gaining a little late, but again, he needs to save some ground there. And then last year's Baltimore-Washington Turf Cup at Pimlico of a mile on the 10th of September. He finished third by 2 lengths. Seth Pease went on to win a great race that day. This horse, he moved a little bit late, but it wasn't anything spectacular. And then the lure on this turf course last year over the mile 16th. He finished 4th by 4 1/4 lengths that day. That race, he was stupidly wide. He should have saved some ground, but he didn't. What can you do? As a 3-year-old 2 seasons ago, he won the Saranac on this course quite nicely by a length. Came back to win the Hill Prince at Belmont, and he had a very troubled trip in the Hollywood Derby of 2021. But then his 4-year-old form last year, it just got so and when he stepped up in class, it got a little backwards. It's not the world's deepest Bernard Baruch. I think he could find the winner's circle here. I think the 5-horse Emirati for Flavian Pratt and Chad Brown could win also. Hasn't been seen since the poker at Belmont, a mile on Belmont Stakes Day, where he finished 6th by 7 1/4 lengths that day, and he just didn't show up off the bench. He needed the race. He won this race last year quite nicely. Remember closing day last year, it was raining at post time, and then it just slowly got worse and worse. By the time of the 5th race, I believe they took everything off the turf course. This race was actually run as the 3rd race last year. Rated good turf course. It was was the softer side of good, but he loved every bit of it. He won by 3.5 lengths that day, and he won for fun. Very pedestrian fractions, a very good race for him there. Prior to that, optional 80 on the center turf course, he won by a nose, and again, closing up from nowhere. He had a stupid trip that day, but he got the job done. And then last year on 3rd July at Belmont off the bench in optional 80, he finished second by a half length. Horrible trip, but he just missed late, but he ran his heart out. Sometimes he misses time finding the racetrack, but when he's on the racetrack, he runs these terrific races. He's up there in age. He could definitely win. He likes this turf course, 5 for 4 on it. He's running career best on it. I'll give him a shot, but he's not going to see a bog like he did last year. It's going to be a lightning fast course considered to what he saw last year. But to recount my selection for the third from the spot, it is the Baruch. Going to take the 3-horse public sector. Give kudos to the 5-horse Emirati, 3-5-2-4 Super. 3-5 in your multi-race. The fourth event from Saratoga now. It is a claiming event going for $72,000 purse. Race 4-year-olds and upwards. Going for claim price $40,000. We have a field of 10 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the turf course. I'm going to take the number 8 horse here, Lord Captain, 8617 for me in the superfecta. 8617 Super. Top selection 8 horse, Lord Captain. 4-year-old colt by Lord Nelson. Linda Rice trains. Ira Tees Jr. gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in a start allowance here at Saratoga, mile and a quarter on the 2nd of August. He finished 4th by 5 lengths that day, and he from a wide post he tried leaving that day. He stalked all the way around the race course, but then he just wasn't staying the trip. Cutting back to 7, a little lesser quality horses, he's in a better spot to win. Keep in mind, the winner was a next start winner of that last race. 2 back here on the 23rd of July at Saratoga, 7 furlongs in a start allowance race. He finished second by a half length that day. He didn't get out of the gate so clearly, but he sat back early. He slowly moved his way up. He just missed late. He was closing up like an express train. He ran his heart out first time in the Rice barn there, and then claiming 40 at Churchill, mile 16th, 13th of May. He won by a head from a tracking trip. He gamed it out to the wire. It was a very good race. He's won over routing trips. That's where he's basically got everything his own way going to 3/4. But I do think he does better over a 1-turn mile. Even a 7 furlongs, what he's going to see today is going to be his preferred trip. He's getting it. He's getting Irad up, who's, leading rider. I'm going to give this horse a massive shot on the ticket. I think the 6 horse, Swift Shore, for Manny Franco and Horacio De Paz could definitely get a piece of it. Most recently, I was claiming third too a few weeks ago here. He finished 6 by 1 3/4 lengths that day, and he showed some speed on the front end, saying some wicked fractions. He kind of got caught late. They are stepping him up in some more class, but I think with blinkers on today, being a little bit more into it, I wonder how far his speed could go. 2 back, he ran a little crappy at Monmouth, going 6 and allowance optional claimer. He finished 6 by 18.5 lengths that day, and he completely crumbled. He probably needed the race there. It was his first start since November. That came at Laurel, 6 furlongs and optional 40, where he finished 3rd by 6 3/4 lengths, and again, he completely crumbled. He ran a terrific. His races here last summer weren't bad at all. He won a claiming 50 last July of 2022, quite nice on the front end by 4.5. Come back with an 86 buyer. Came back in defeat with an 85 buyer, placing here last August, going 7/8. If he had a better trip and a better break out of the gate, he probably would have won. He has hidden class that could definitely win here today. Back to 7. I'll give him a shot here in this early pick 4. But to recount my selection for the 4th from the spot, gonna take the 8 horse here, who is Lord Captain. Give kudos to the 6 horse Swift Shore, 8617 Super, 8-6 in your multi-race. The 5th event from the spot, it's a maiden special weight purse, $88,000, race for maidens 3-year-olds and for maidens 3-year-olds and upwards state breds here. We have a field of 12 horses, or excuse me, not 12 horses. We have a field of 13 horses. Keep in mind the 1A is AE. There is a 2B that's going to be a part of the main field also. So there's a part of an entry in this one. Just keep that in mind. But my top selection, I'm going to go with the 6 horse Grizzando. I'm going to go 6-11-1-4 in the superfecta. 6-11-1-4 super. Top selection 6 horse Screzzanando. This 5-year-old gun by McLean's Music. Gary Siaka trains. Javier Castellano is having a terrific season and a terrific summer. Gets the mounts. The horse's most recent outing came the 14th of July at Saratoga. 5.5 off the melon on the main track in a state bred main special weight, and he finished 4th by 3 lengths that day. He was wide. He wanted something more. A little bit tiring track earlier in the meeting. Maybe he just needed to get around the race course. I think getting back to the preferred surface when he's run on turf as of recently is His buyers have definitely been up to par. I think he could get a good trip to win. He's also drawn very well in the spot. Two back 25th of June at Belmont, 6 furlongs inner turf course in main special weight. He finished second by length that day, and he had a horrible trip down the backstretch, a little bit wide, but he was gaining after all said and done. He showed, good heart that day, and then prior to that, late May at Belmont, 7 furlongs in the Widener in the main special weight. He finished third by a half length that day. Again, a little bit wide, but he was closing up well late. Nothing bad about that race. Like I said, his turf efforts are a little bit far in between, but when he runs on them, he runs these good races. Like if you go back to the end of his final start of 2022, he actually came at Belmont, 6 furlongs in April in a main special weight where he finished second by a neck that day, stupidly wide, but he was gaining late. Unfortunately, you didn't see the horse for 11 months afterwards, where he ran on St. Patrick's Day at Aqueduct. We had a good 4th place finish on the dirt, but like I said, he wants to run on turf. He's coming back to it today. He should find it with the winner's circle, indeed. I think the 11 horse could find it also. Lady Banker for Tyler Gaffalione and George Weaver, another trainer, George Weaver, and he's having a terrific summer. But most recently, this horse ran maiden 40 over the 5.5 here in mid-July, where he finished second by 2 3/4 lengths. From wide posture, he left out of the gate. He kind of hit the wall late. The winner got to him, but he ran his heart out that day. He has come back here like in a little bit of a tougher spot, but I think if he shows the speed again, it could go a long way. Two back in 6 furlong maiden 40 at Belmont on the 24th of June. He finished 6 by 6 lengths that day. Again, didn't break so well from the wide poster, which cost him. He was just a little bit wide and just needed the race for the experience. But come back here, gonna have to overcome a wide posture. He could find a piece of it. And even the one horse here, Rusi, has been trying to step on turf. The last two got rained off, and he's run 2 terrific races here locally. His buyers are getting better on dirt. Coming here to the green stuff where he's training on quite nicely. I'll give him a shot to end off this early pick 4. But to recap my selection for the 5th from the Saratoga, it is a nice main special weight. Going to take the 6 horse Shrazando. Give kudos to the 11 horse here, Lady Banker, and the 1 horse Rusi. 6-11-1-4 Super. 6-11-1 to end off the early pick 4. Let's get to the 6th event from Saratoga, which is the main special weight purse, $88,000, race for maidens, 2-year-olds here, state breds. We have a field of 16 horses entered, 11 through 16 are AEs, 10 could go, 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs on the dirt. Going to take the first or the 6 horse Solo Fury, 6-1-9-8 for me in the superfecta. 6-1-9-8 super, top selection 6 horse Solo Fury, 2-year-old colt by Solomini. Jeremiah Engelhart trains this one. John Velasquez, the veteran, gets the mount. They bought this horse May of 2023 for $130,000. He's first time starter here, but his most recent workouts have been quite nicely done. Half mile, 27th of August from the gate, 47-3. The 7th best workout, 141, and a half mile on the Oklahoma in 48-3 from the gate. 20th best workout, 68-6. And if you just go look at these workout patterns, consistently half mile jewels in 48. Jeremiah Engelhart, not the best with first time starters. They do get a little over bet, but but his 2-year-old numbers aren't bad at all. Coming here today, I would use him on the ticket. I will use him on the ticket. I think the 1 horse already prank for Mark Henning and Dylan Davis from the rail. If this horse shows some speed, I think he could go a long way. Again, first time stars for Mark Henning, only 3%, and they're just not showing up there. Even his 2-year-olds aren't showing up first time outing, but this horse I think could change it, and Mark Henning's having a great summer locally. The worker patterns up to scratch. Dylan Davis could be a little aggressive from the inside. I'll give this horse a shot on the ticket. Even the 9 horse here, Wisecracker for Jose Ortiz and Linda Rice, has been training quite nicely down at Belmont. Coming here today, I'll give him a shot, but I do prefer the other 2 before him. But to recap my selection for the 6 from Saratoga, I'm going to take the 6 horse Solo Fury, give kudos to the 1 horse Already Prank, and the 9 horse Wisecracker. 6-1-9-8 Super, 6-1-9 in the multi-race. Let's get to the 7th. The 7th event from Saratoga, it's a allowance race purse, $95,000, race for fillies, mares, 3-year-olds and upwards, state breds here. We have a field of 16 horses entered, 14 through 16 are MTOs, 13 is an AE, a dozen will go. 1,700 meters or mile 16th on the inner turf course. I'm going to take as a top selection here the number 9 horse Crimson Princess. Let's go 9-6-4-10 in the superfecta. 9-6-4-10 super, top selection 9 horse Crimson Princess. 3-year-old Philip at Cloud Computing. Jeremiah Engelhart trains this one. Dylan Davis gets the mount. The horse's most recent appearance came early February, the 1st to be exact, at Gulfstream Park, mile 16th on their so-called turf course. It still looked like a turf course during that day. When we got to early April for the Pan American and the Orchid Florida Derby Day, that turf course was not turf. It was dirt covered with green powder, I think. I have high hopes for this turf course coming up for the next championship meeting. It actually looks like turf right now that they just installed, so hopefully it actually does good. But on the turf at Gulfstream, going mile 16th, he finished 5th by 5 lengths. He had a very wide trip, which cost him that day. He was just wide throughout. He kind of hit the wall late. It wasn't the day to win. Coming here off the bench, he's going to have to overcome a wide poster here today. But Dylan Davis, if he's more aggressive with this horse, getting good position, I think this horse can get into it and really run a good race again here today. 2 back in optional 30 at Gulfstream, 7.5 on the lawn, 4th of January. He finished 4th by 1/4 lengths. Again, not the best beginnings from wide post draw, but he sat back early, swung out wide late. If the race was, say, a mile 16th, he probably would have won, but he ran a terrific run there in defeat. And then early November at Gulfstream, mile 70 on the Tapeta and main 35,000, winning by 1.5 lengths. He stalked that day a little bit wide, but he went away with it. A very nice run with a 54 buyer. His buyers have definitely been improving. He's training well here today. Jeremiah Engelhart with long layoffs, 35%. Very good numbers here with that. Turf numbers a little slow, but I think this horse could find the winner circle. I'm going to use him. I think your second likeliest winner in this spot could be the 6 horse, Smoky Eyes. My first cat was named Smoky years ago. But Christophe Clement trains one for, and Ira Ortiz Jr. gets mount. Most recently in the Susie O'Kane here 3 weeks ago over the mile 16th on this turf course. It was good, but it was a softer side of good. He finished 4th by 5 lengths that day, and he just kind of stalked that day and kind of hit the wall. He needed the race. It was his first start since the end of May. That came at Belmont on a lightning fast inner turf course. Mile 16th in a State Bred Lounge race. Similar conditions as today, just worth less money. He finished 7 by 5 1/4 lengths that day. He left out of the gate after being very rambunctious in it and before the race. And, he left out of the gate flying on the front end. He just couldn't keep up late. Maybe he needed the race for experience. And then the lounge race opening week at Belmont, a mile off the turf, he finished 5th by 12.5 lengths that day. He was very wide, and, he's just not a dirt horse. If you look at his 2-year-old form last year, didn't run bad at all. Placed here last August in a very nice main special weight. Came back to place at Aqueduct opening weekend last year in September, and came back to win a main special weight in mid-October at Aqueduct over the mile 16th, where he went away with it by 3.5 lengths on the front end. So this horse has some speed. And before I go any further, because I just noticed it right now, it's been bothering me for the longest time. I hope when we get to this current Belmont at Aqueduct meeting, I don't mind the BAQ abbreviation in the racing form. Which is bothering me a lot is the inner turf course and outer turf course races at Belmont during that meeting last year weren't specified. So you had to go watch the replay or look at the charts to see which turf course it was, because those two turf courses do play different at times. If you just look in the race course, if you've been looking at those Belmont and Aqueduct races last fall, in the racing form, it just has turf course. It doesn't specify which one. Hopefully they could switch it for this meeting coming up, but that's been grinding my nerves this whole since April, since the return of turf racing here in New York. But that's for another. That's my bitching for another day. But this horse has some speed. He could definitely win. Even the 4-horse Snowy Evening for John Velazquez. In the Susie O'Kane, this horse just was facing tough horses. Prior to that, closed up for nowhere opening weekend here and had a very good place at Aqueduct. At Belmont. The buyers have definitely been improving here, getting Johnny up. I'll give this horse a shot on the ticket. But to recap my selection for the 7 from Saratoga, a very nice lounge race here. Going to take the 9-horse Crimson Princess, can't speak. Give kudos to the 6-horse Smoky Eyes and the 4-horse Snowy Evening. 9-6-4-10 Super, 9-6-4 in your multi-race. The final late pick for the season from Saratoga begins with this 8th race. It is an allowance race, purse $95,000, race for 3-year-olds and upwards here state breds. Field of 10 horses going 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs on the main track. I'm going to take the 8-horse Win for Gold. Let's go 8-1-6-10 in the superfecta. 8-1-6-10 super. Top selection 8-horse Win for Gold. 5-year-old gelding by Golden Sense. Michelle Giangelo trained this one. Kendrick Carmouche gets the mount. He's had a very good winter. very good summer here at Saratoga. Can't speak, pardon me. Most recently ran the horse mid last month at Saratoga, 6 furlongs in a Star Lounge race, and he won by 3 3/4 lengths, and basically on the front end, he took off clear dueling, a little bit wide, but he came home quite nicely, 110-1. Not a bad time for him at all. 85 career best buyer. Come back here to 6 furlongs. I like the wide post draw for him. I think he'd get into it and really run another good race here today. Prior to that, Saratoga 6 furlongs, 15th of July in a Start Lounge race. He finished second by 3.5 lengths that day, and he was again dueling early on. He was a little bit wide that day, and he got caught in the lane, but he ran his heart out that day against his horses. And then 11th of June at Belmont, 6 furlongs in a Start Lounge race, finished third by a neck. He was flying dueling on the front end. He got caught late, but he ran a terrific race from the wide poster there. And even at Belmont, 6.5 in mid-May in a Start Lounge race, finishing third by 2.5 lengths, or second by 2 1/4 lengths that day. Again, he was on the front and he kind of hit the wall late, but he ran his heart out. He has a lot of speed here. He's stepping up in class. Even with the step up in class, I think his buyers are up to scratch. He could find a piece of it. I think the one horse asymmetric for Chad Brown and Manny Franco could win. They ran him with the mile here with the Wilson Mile here a few weeks ago on the mud, where he just wasn't getting going. He needed probably the race also first off the bench, cutting back in trip, second off. I think this horse could also find the winner's circle. Even the 6 horse here, Be the Boss for Mike Maker and Tyler Gaffleone, he's run races fast enough that could win on the front end. And the 10 horse always charming for Ira Ortiz Jr. Last 2 races, stepping up in glass. He showed some decent form even to feed. 2 back in that Star Lounge race at Belmont. He won going away and won a claim 25 on April Fool's Day at Aqueduct quite nicely. He's been on the improve. I don't like going 4 deep sometimes in a pick 4. But I think this is the kind of race you want to go 4 deep. I think these 4 horses can win. So pick your choose. So playing exact box all 4 of them and play nicely if they come in. But to recap my selection for the 8th from Saratoga, I'm going to take the 8 horse here, who is Win for Gold, 8-1-6-10 Super, 8-1-6-10 in the multi race. And like I said, do a exact box with all 3 of them. Let's get to the 9th now from the Spa. The 9th from Saratoga, it's a maiden special weight, purse $136,500, races for maidens 3-year-olds and upwards here. We have a field of 12 horses entered. The 12 is an MTO, 11 will head 1,100 meters or 5.5 furlongs on the Mellon Turf course. I'm going to take the 8 horse Alexis Zobra as the top selection. I'm going to go 8-4-3-10 in the superfecta. 8-4-3-10 super, top selection, the 8 horse Alexis Zobra. 3-year-old colt by Zoster here. Chad Brown trains. Ira Ortiz Jr. gets the mount. Blinkers off. Also Lasix for the first time. First start in 13 months. Was actually entered about a month ago, but was a vet scratch. So I wonder what the problem was. Tried looking into it, I couldn't find it, but that's something to keep an eye on. But hasn't been seen since the 6th of August of 2022. That was under the previous care of Joseph O'Brien. Now, if you remember, last summer Joseph O'Brien had a very small crew here at Saratoga, and they ran okay in spots, but in other spots not so well. But this horse is probably the best of all his horses that ran here last summer. It ran here in a main special weight where he finished second by 2 1/4 lengths that day, and he just kind of stalked Battle of Normandy all the way around the race course. Battle of Normandy had the jump on him late, but he got around the race course well. Not stalking, he set the pace. Battle of Normandy stalked him and got the job done late. But this horse, he ran his heart out with very geriatric fractions. I always say pedestrian fractions are about 112 to 115. When we go over 115 to 3/4, that's when we get geriatric fractions. My grandmother could have made those fractions 116 flat. So he was going slow on the front end. Maybe need the race first time around 2 turns. I do think the cutback and trips would suit him well here today. Chad Brown has very good numbers off the bench. 2 back, the horse ran the 22nd of July at Saratoga, 5.5 in the main special weight. I'm pretty sure I bet him that day, and he finished 4th by 7.5 lengths. He was very overbet that day. He just kind of stalked, never got into the, never got out of the gate so clearly, and he just never really got going until very late in the run. It wasn't his day to win, but terrifically he ran prior to that Nace in the spring of 2022 over the 5 furlongs on yielding ground. He finished second by 3 lengths behind Little Big Bear, who's a decent horse. So he got beat by a proper group horse there. He just kind of stalked that day. He got overtaken late, but he ran his heart out there. And then prior to that, in the main race at Dundalk on the Polish Track, 5 furlongs in mid-April 2022, finished second by 1.5 lengths. Again, he took him a little bit of time to get going, but he got going late. He's training well. He has some hidden form against some tough horses he's been facing as a 2-year-old and some shorter offerings. I'm going to use him on the ticket. I think your second likeliest winner here is the 4-horse Be There for Nick Zito and Tyler Gaffalione. Most recently in the main special weight over the Mellon over 5.5. He finished fourth by 6.5 lengths that day. He hit the gate going out of it, which cost him. He was with them early on. He just kind of hit the wall late, but he ran his heart out that day. Prior to the Ellis going 5.5 in the main special weight off the bench, he finished second by 2 3/4 lengths, and he was a little bit wide, but he was closing up from nowhere. Not a bad race after all said and done. And then he ran here last summer where he just had a horrible beginning, which cost him. His dirt effort last summer actually wasn't half bad at all. Coming here at 12-1, he could be farly paced. He gets Gaffalione up, who's a major jockey booking on him. I'm going to give him a shot. Even the 3-horse American Know-How for Tom Morley and Javier Castellano. Again, making her 6th start here today, but has definitely been improving. Started twice on this turf course, and both starts have been improving. Gets a better posture, could be farly paced. It wouldn't surprise me if this horse steals it. At 5-2, we'll use her on the multis. But to recount my selection for the ninth from Saratoga, going to use the 8 horses Alexis Zobra. Give kudos to the 4 horses Be There and the 3-horse American Know-How. 8-4-3-10 Super. 8-4-3 in your multi race. The traditional closing day feature is the 10th race from Saratoga now, which is the Hopeful Stakes. It's a grade 1 event going for a $300,000 purse, race for 2-year-olds here. We have a field of 11 horses going 1,400 meters and 7 furlongs in the Hopeful. Years ago, I was just thinking this, earlier this week when the entries came out for this race, used to have the Hopeful, and then 3 weeks later, you would have the Futurity at Belmont, and then you would have the Champagne, and then you would have the Breeders' Cup. You had so many races. Just thinking about the Belmont Fall Championship meeting about 20 years ago, even a little bit earlier than that, 25 years ago, you had so many good races, and the horses would come back really quickly. It's a shame that some of these races are, long forgotten now. Like the Jerome, used to be run opening weekend at Belmont. The Manowar used to be opening weekend at Belmont in September. I always remember that. The Futurity, and used to have grade 1 racing every single Saturday. The fall meeting at Belmont's a little bit, it's still good, but it's not as good as it was, say, 20 years ago or 25 years ago. But with that being said, I love the 9-horse Valentine Candy as a top selection. I'm going to go 9-1-10-7 in the superfecta. 9-1-10-7 super. Top selection, the 9-horse Valentine Candy, True Colt by Justify. Steve Asmussen trains. Tyler Gaffalione gets the mount. Horse's most recent outing came at Saratoga, 22nd July, 6 furlongs in the main special weight, and he went by 3/4 of length that day, and he was flying on the front end. He got out of the gate so clearly, and he kept going. The 66 buyer is going to be an 85. I believe they changed the buyer right after the race, or right around this week. And, so just keep that in mind. A lot of the horses that have been coming out of that race have been really running terrific races, and, he's coming back here today. Could be forwardly paced from wide post, or he doesn't need the pace. I think this horse could really get a good trip and win. And, those horses he's been facing last time out weren't bad at all. He could win. The 1 horse, Just Steel for Joel Rosario and D-Wayne Lucas, can also win. It took him a little bit of time to break the main, but he finally did going 6 here on the 5th of August in the main special weight, winning by a nose from a wide trip. He dueled on the front end. He gamed it out to the wire behind BU, and he got the job done. A good gritty performance there, beating that BU. Coming here today, he's proven that he could stalk. He's proven he could close. I'm going to give him a shot. 2 back here in a main special weight opening weekend, going 5.5. He finished second by 3 lengths that day. Pirate won that day. He was stupidly wide, but he was really gaining that day. And then on debut at Ellis, he needed the race. He didn't break so well. He was wide, and he had to be on the front end winning at Ellis in June. Throughout the meeting at Ellis, especially June, he just never really got going there. Just Steel, he could win. I'll use him on the ticket. Even the 10-horse BU, he's still a maiden, but I think he has a strong future ahead of him for Ira Ortiz Jr. and Todd Pletcher. Most recently on that 5th of August race where Just Steel won, he placed. He was on the front and dueling. He just missed late, but he ran his heart out. Keep in mind, 3rd place finisher Locked was the next star winner. Since the last race, he's been training quite well. If he could get out of the gate so clearly from the wide post or from a tracking trip, he could win. Same connections almost as last year's Forte, and we all remember Forte winning on the outside of the racetrack on the slop here, so maybe they'll do it again with this one, but I think it's a very wide open hopeful, so any of these 3 can win. We'll use them in the exact is definitely and in the pick 4 here. But to recap my selection for the 10th from Saratoga, it is the grade 1 hopeful. Gonna take the 9-horse Valentine Candy. I don't know why I keep saying Valentine, but Valentine Candy. Give kudos to the 1 horse Just Steel and the 10-horse BU. 9-1-10-7 super. 9-1-10 in the pick 4. The finale, the nightcap from Saratoga. It is a maiden special weight purse, $88,000. It's for maidens, 3-year-olds and upwards, state-breds here. We have a field of 16 horses entered, 13, 14, 15 are AE, 16 is an MTO, 12 ahead to the inner turf course, 1,700 meters of journey, or the mile 16th here in the final race of the season from Saratoga. My top selection, I'm going to go take the number 11 horse, LT Mitchell, Lieutenant Mitchell, I guess. I'll go 11, 10, 5, 8 in the superfecta. 11, 10, 5, 8 super. Top selection, 11 horse, Lieutenant Mitchell, 3-year-old gelding by the lieutenant here. Linda Rice trains. Jose Ortiz gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came 23rd of August, which was a week and a half ago at Saratoga, nearly 2 weeks. Mile 16th in main special on the inner turf course, and he finished third by 3 1/4 lengths that day. He had a very wide trip that day stalking. He kind of hit the wall late, but they finally got him on turf, and he improved a lot. He's making his actually fourth start of the Saratoga meeting, which I find quite cool. Come back with the quick turnaround, being forwardly pace. I think he can get a trip to win. They ran him off the turf over the Wilson Mile on the 9th of August here in a main special weight, where he finished fourth by 3 lengths that day. He had a wide trip. He was wide throughout, and he never really got going. The winner really ran terrifically there. And then main special weight over the Wilson Mile here on the 21st of July. He finished third by 8 1/4 lengths. From a wide post right, he left. He got overtaken late, but again, he ran his heart out there. And then the first June at Belmont, 7 furlongs on the Widener. He finished third by 4 lengths that day. And again, he kind of stalked. He won something more like a mile 16th, but he ran his heart out. His bars have definitely been improving. He could be forwardly paced in this race, which I don't think is half bad. This turf course plays towards speed. He could win. The 10 horse Prita West for Bill Mott and Tyler Gaffalione. He's stepping on turf for the first time. You know, not first time turf, 8%, not the best numbers in the world, and they're a little over bet, but I think this horse has been crying out for turf. The way he runs. He tried running on the turf last time out off the bench. 1 mile off the turf on the Wilson Mile in a maiden 40, where he finished fourth by 4 1/4 lengths that day, and he just kind of stalked that day. He never had the turn of foot. On debut at Aqueduct in late April, going 3/4 on the dirt, he finished ninth by 15 1/2 lengths that day. Something must have went amiss that day. He was wide, and he just never really showed up that day. But he improved a little bit more with that last race. Coming here, getting Lasix on, going to turf, hopefully no rainstorms. I think this horse could be forwardly paced, and I think he could find the winner circle. Even the first-time starter for Chad Brown, Fake Celebrity, he is a Monmouth shipper from his Monmouth string, but he's been training quite nicely down there. He doesn't have a lot of turf pedigree. He's more bred for dirt, but he could definitely win also. Chad Brown on turf with the first times are very dangerous, so let's use them in the spot to end off the multi-race sequences here in the 2023 Saratoga meeting. But to recap my selection for the final race, the 11th race from Saratoga, gonna take the 11 horse Lieutenant Mitchell, give kudos to the 10 horse Prita West and the 5 horse here Fake Celebrity, 11-10 5-8 Super, 11-10 5 in your multi-race. So that is a wrap from Saratoga, and it's been a fun meeting here, and it's gonna be fun heading back to Aqueduct in the like I said, in 2 weeks, and we're gonna see some good races. You have the Woodward coming up, the Champagne, the Turf Classic, and we're going to see some very very exciting races ahead on the NYRA circuit. With that being said, good luck to all, and please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world. Good luck, everybody, and that's a wrap at Saratoga for 2023.